On my nightstand, there are two books. These two books are always there. One is a book that you may not know. It is called Death Comes to the War Poets. The other book may be more familiar to you. It is the classic book, I realize this is backwards, The Little Prince, Le Petit Prince, written by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. It was published posthumously in 1943. The story follows a young prince who travels to a bunch of different planets, including Earth, and he addresses themes like loneliness, friendship, loss, love. And despite the fact that it comes across in the style of a children's book, The Little Prince makes observations about life and human nature that are important for every adult. And one of the most famous lines from The Little Prince comes in a moment when one of the characters says, "It is only with the heart that one sees rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." Today is the feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. It is a devotion to the Sacred Heart that has been widely practiced in the Church throughout many centuries. Many saints have proclaimed their devotion to the heart of Jesus, insisting the truth that it is filled with mercy and love and forgiveness for everyone. Some of the saints that were famous in promoting the devotion to the Sacred Heart were people like Saint Bonaventure, Saint Gertrude the Great. The first celebration of the Feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus took place in the 17th century. Saint John Eudes actually began this devotion in a place called Rennes in France. You know, when you read through the Gospels, you find that there are many recurring themes. And when you read through the Gospels, you realize that Jesus would have understood very clearly the words in the book, The Little Prince. It is only with the heart that one sees rightly. Jesus looked at people with his heart. He looked beneath what they did or didn't do. He looked beneath status, intellect. He looked beneath whether they were strong in faith or hardly believed. Jesus looked with his heart, and he saw goodness. He saw all endless possibilities of this, how each human person could become who God was calling them to be. He saw how the human heart could be filled with joys and hopes and love. And he also saw how every human heart at some point in life will be wounded. In today's first reading for the feast, we hear the words of the prophet Hosea, who himself knew personally a broken heart because of his unfaithful wife. But he also spoke to the Hebrew people from the experience of his wounded heart and told them that even though they had been unfaithful to God, God never stopped loving them, that God looked at them with the heart of love, and God saw that they could indeed begin again. He writes, "I drew them with human cords, with bonds of love. My heart is overwhelmed. My pity is stirred." God's pity is stirred. But I also think about that verse, the heart is overwhelmed. My heart is overwhelmed. There have been a lot of things that have happened in the past year that have overwhelmed our hearts. And we learned that in life, it is more than a pandemic that can overwhelm our hearts. The promise of today's feast is that Jesus will continue to love us, no matter what is in our hearts, or how closed our hearts have become, or how wounded they are. What I've learned in my life as a priest, and I've shared with you on various occasions, is that people are changed by love. You've experienced this, I'm sure, in your life. When we follow the example of Jesus and we see with the heart, people in our lives can be changed by that love of God coming from our hearts to theirs. People change. People become who God is calling them to be, never by your judgment, never by your disapproval, never by the silent treatment, never by your opinion. But if you believe that the heart of Christ can become your heart, then you're willing to listen to them. You're willing to try to understand them. You're willing to walk with them. And when they experience that, the willingness to listen, for you to try to understand, for you to walk with them, that's how their hearts begin to change. That's what Jesus did his entire life, and that's what he calls his disciples to do as well. Now, this small statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, this for many, many, many years was always in my family's car. There is a magnet underneath here that no longer works, and it always was on the dashboard of our car, whatever car my family happened to own. I have had this in my possession for many years. It's not in any car, it's actually in my office. I'm not certain of where my parents got this from. I do know that we grew up in a Slovak parish that was named for the Sacred Heart of Jesus. So the traveling Jesus here is now retired, and he takes up time in my own office. But whenever I look at this image of the Sacred Heart, I'm always reminded that Jesus' love accompanies me, accompanies you, wherever you go, that love doesn't remain in the church, or that love doesn't only come when you're a good person and you do the right thing, that no matter where you are on the road of life, no matter what circumstance you find yourself in, the heart of Jesus is always looking at you with this tender grace, this amazing grace. And the more that you and I believe that he travels with us in love, the more we can be different people, the more we can change. So maybe today even, the next time you get in your car, stop for a minute before you turn on the ignition. Now, you may not have a statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus on your dashboard, but you do have a rear view mirror. I want you to look directly in that mirror. Look directly at your face and think of the words from The Little Prince. It is only with the heart that one sees rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. And then ask God for the grace, the great, amazing grace, to have that vision wherever your journey takes you.